Welcome to another episode of Spark. Today's guest is Helmut Schönenberger. Helmut is one of the founders and CEO of UnternehmerTUM, Europe's leading startup hub. UnternehmerTUM has helped to build many of Germany's biggest startups and is one of the few places in Europe that continuously produce unicorns. Helmut is also one of the most active voices on entrepreneurship in Germany and one of the key people who currently drive and transform the ecosystem for the better. Helmut and I talk about what changes at the moment and why the typical objections against starting your own entrepreneurial journey are false in his opinion. Helmut, we know each other from UnternehmerTUM, and I know that you're really, really busy. So it's a huge honor actually to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, Luis.
And there's one question that I've been wondering for a long time now, and I think many other people actually do that as well. Like, what do you actually do all day long at UnternehmerTUM? So how does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day is like 10 to 15 meetings with students, customers, investors, startup teams, and pushing forward ideas, initiatives. That's my life.
How big is the role of politics, I would say?
Also, a lot of government representatives also come, politicians from Germany, from Bavaria, but also from the European Union worldwide.
So it's basically you who's responsible that UnternehmerTUM is financed for the next few years, or?
We are a team of 500 people, and it's a great team. But my role is also to be a good ambassador and salesman for UnternehmerTUM.
I know that you need a lot of energy. I mean, like 15 meetings per day. I can't imagine how that must feel like. Where does your energy come from?
Pushing things forward, working with great people, improving the world with great solutions, seeing companies evolve, seeing companies really scaling. That's a great joy.
And if you go back in your lifetime, was there a specific point or an episode that sort of showed you, it could be worth it, to work that much and to really build something?
Yes, I think it's about passion, so it doesn't feel like work. Okay, now it's another hour to work, and what should I do? But it's in a flow. You're in a flow of great ideas, of great people, and it also takes energy, but it also gives a lot of energy, and that's passion basically.
I read that you were in Stanford, I think in '97 or something. Was that sort of a turning point for you, or was it even earlier that you thought oh wow, entrepreneurship, this is really interesting?
So the turning point was before that, when I was an aerospace student, and I did 1 year in Los Angeles, and I worked for a NASA project at the University of California. And so I was sitting with all these old NASA engineers, and they were shortly before retirement.
But it still sounds awesome.
Yeah, but they were very pessimistic, and they were only talking about how cool life was when they were young engineers and working for the Apollo project, and now everything is really bad. And I thought I would never like to end up like these guys. And this is actually and this is actually how I came into all these startup activities, because I thought, okay, it's time to really be active, recognize opportunities, and really build up your own thing.
So you saw your possible life path as a NASA engineer, and then you thought nope.
It was really so negative, and I would never want to end up like these guys.
I can truly understand that. And I think that there's, I don't know you that well, but I think there's like one thing that you are really interested in and that sort of connects us a little bit, and that's creativity or this like process of creating something. Um, is there also like an artistic creative side to you that we don't know about yet?
So so my journey is in aerospace, and what I love is to technology and to design um, yeah, prototypes, and in this case it was remote controlled aircrafts, and so I did a lot of design in how to build cool aircrafts and build them, test them, break them, and and build another version. So that's what I love, this combination from design and technology.
So I guess like ESA Aerospace is then a place you like to go, or
Yeah, this is a dream coming true. So ESA Aerospace is a space company building a launcher, satellite launcher, and it's a very good team coming out of a TUM student and research group called VAR. And so they were building and testing new rocket engines. And then they said, okay, we have now this great idea how to build these engines. Let's start a company and not only build rocket engines, but whole launching systems. And that's really a dream coming true, seeing them evolve. They're now a company with over 400 people and having these huge test sites. This is really amazing.
so I think everybody can hear that you're really fascinated. So maybe let's shift a little bit to your mission. I mean, I think most people also can probably already hear what your mission is. But like, could you give us a short overview what you want to achieve?
Yeah, so basically the mission is to really help the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs. And there are so many great people out there. Luis, you're one of them, and you know many of them. And so in every generation, there are so many great people. And so our mission is really to help these people to be in a perfect environment, to build their dreams, build their companies, and create huge value, create a lot of jobs, great products. And this is what we now do with UnternehmerTUM. It's now the largest startup factory in Europe. So every week, 2 new companies are built. So this means like more than 100 per year, and they create thousands and thousands of jobs and create billions and billion euros of value per year.
So you're sort of trying to build out this ecosystem, basically in Munich, but also in Germany, right?
Exactly. So it's the idea is to really build the perfect playground for innovators who want to build great companies. And so this is a team game, and it's also a game of a community. And Munich evolved as one of the strongest European startup ecosystems, with our university, TUM, Technical University of Munich, in the center, and our entrepreneurship center, UnternehmerTUM. And this is a driving force. So we produce about 80% of our high growth tech companies of Bavaria, and this is about 25% of all these companies in Germany. So it's really a hotspot, a cluster of great new companies.
I think also I have to say, like, that's one point we will talk later about, but I think that the spirit at the moment is pretty good again. Which is maybe a little bit contrary to how like the general feeling maybe in Germany is.
Yeah, but it's up to us. So it's okay. There are framework conditions, but we are one of the leading economies in the world. So right now, the 3rd largest economy in the world. There are great companies out there, huge companies like Siemens, BMW, Knorr-Bremse. There are a lot of family businesses, and there are great young companies. And out of our ecosystems, many unicorn companies, so companies which are now worth more than $1 billion US dollars coming out of our ecosystems like Flixbus, Celonis, Personio, and so on.
So I think in the past few years, of course, you have built UnternehmerTUM, but you have also like pushed forward certain, I don't know how to put it, but like policy or like regulation changes that you think would benefit Germany. Maybe let's talk about some of those that are happening right now.
Yes, so we work closely with the German government because for us it's important if you have a market share of 25%, it's super important to have also the right framework conditions so to grow. And so we also team up with the federal government, with the state government here in Bavaria, with the European Commission to really improve the ecosystem. And with the German government, we started two initiatives. One is the so-called WIN initiative, and this is about creating a better financing ecosystem for Germany. So our companies need a lot of money to grow. So they need like 2 to 3 billion US dollars per year. And so the question is, where does this money come from? And right now, most of the money comes from the US. And our thinking is that it would be great if more of this growth money also comes from Germany, because we should invest our German money in our German startup success stories and then create value and then also profit from this value. So this is the idea of the WIN initiative. And then there's a second initiative called the Lighthouse Competition Startup Factories. And there the basic idea is that we have not only one UnternehmerTUM in Germany, but many sisters and brothers in other university ecosystems, like in Berlin or in Hamburg or in Aachen or in Frankfurt or in Stuttgart and so on. And that also in these ecosystems, the universities team up with the local startup ecosystems, with the local investor ecosystems, with the established companies, with the family businesses, and really form super strong local clusters. And then these clusters, like in Stuttgart and in Dresden and Frankfurt and Nuremberg and Munich and Berlin, work together. And every cluster has its strength, like Dresden is good in semiconductors, and the guys in Stuttgart are good in mobility. And so every cluster can also profit from each other.
And what are sort of the concrete goals of the WIN initiative? There's some quite big numbers floating around.
Yeah, so the WIN initiative, the idea is to unlock a lot of money from pension funds and insurance companies. So these pension funds and insurance companies have huge assets, so multi-billions under management. And so the idea is that some of this money is unlocked to be invested in German startups. And so these companies like Allianz and Munich Re and so on, they soft committed 12 billion euros to invest in the next 5 years in the German startup ecosystem. And this is a game changer. So 12 billion is a lot of money.
Basically, it's enough to finance the UnternehmerTUM startups for 5 years.
Exactly, yeah, and that's good.
I also read that sort of in Germany, I think the insurance companies, for example, their like rate of money that they put into like more risky investments, for example, startup financing, is way less than in other countries. Do you see there's a chance that this sort of mindset changes now?
Yeah, I think there's now the political will to do this. You heard of in the European Commission, they have now this initiative to go back on a growth path. So for Europe, and there's this so-called Draghi report where the European Commission said, okay, these are like the 10 measures for returning to a growing economy. And one of the main topics is actually that the capital markets are more friendly for young German and European companies. And so the question is, so how can we unlock this money from the pension funds, from the insurance companies? This money exists, and this should be not only invested into real estate and government bonds, but also in the future. And the future are young German and European companies.
I really love that this is happening right now. So thank you, Helmut. Let's talk a little bit about the startup factories. Where do you see the role of UnternehmerTUM in that space?
So we are Europe's largest startup factory. We know how to play this game for over 20 years now. And you can imagine this like a production line. So in the production line doesn't produce cars, but it produces companies. And so every week, 2 new companies are built. And to start a company, it's also like craftsmanship. Okay, there are a lot of things which are standards. Okay, and if you do it more times, then it's much more easy, it's faster, the quality is higher. And so the idea is with the startup factories that not everybody has to reinvent the wheel, but that you learn from each other. And if there are like 10 other startups who already solved the problem, then you can learn from them and be faster and quicker and more efficient. And this is basically the idea, a learning community of cool people who build companies.
Okay, and sort of UnternehmerTUM can a little bit be like an example, because it worked quite well in Munich, that the others sort of a little bit can copy to like elevate the whole ecosystem
Exactly.
in Germany, right?
And we are totally open that our friends from the other ecosystems, like in Aachen and in Hamburg, can learn also what we did. We are also happy to learn from the other ones. And then you run up the learning curve much more faster than if you reinvent everything yourself. Okay, so that's basically the idea of the startup factories, that it's a cool network of these institutions which help each other and become together more successful.
I think I really like this spirit that like everybody helps each other. And when you walk around UnternehmerTUM, there's the same spirit there. So there's no real competition between people, but it's more like collaborating and helping each other, because sort of if the whole pie is growing, you know what I mean, it's better for everyone, and there's no animosities or anything. And I love this, that you sort of managed to really have the spirit.
Right, yeah. And it's really great if you can learn from each other, if you can share your experience, but also get a lot of insights. This is really cool, and it's such a joy, and it's like the best learning program for yourself to start a company, because you have all these challenges, but then you can solve them practically, and you can look left and right to the other ones, how they solve it, and then experience it yourself and run up the learning curve.
We talked a lot about Germany now, but there's also some stuff on European level going on. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so Europe is super important because we need many friends and also a large market on the capital side, but also with the end consumer, so that our startups can grow and sell their products to many customers. So we need a large European single market, and we need also a large capital market, so our companies can raise a lot of money. And there are also great entrepreneurship centers in other European countries. For example, in the Nordics, you have, like in Denmark, in Copenhagen, the Danish Technical University, or in Sweden, in Stockholm, the KTH, which is the leading university there, or in Finland, Aalto University, which is also a great entrepreneurship and technology university. And so what we do is bring these leading entrepreneurship centers, about 20 all together, also in France, in Spain, in Italy, you name it. And they're wonderful friends, wonderful partners. And so we help each other to build European champions. So European companies enter the markets in France, in Germany, in the Nordics, and so on, raise money together and really team up as European friends.
Sounds like exciting times.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's also, this is Europe, and it's always, so we go, for example, to Madrid or to Paris or to Milano. All ecosystems have their strengths, and it's super to be part of this European ecosystem. And I think this differentiates us from other regions in the world. And if we collaborate, we can leverage our strengths.
So, like from my side, I can really like feel this spirit at the moment. But when we had our pre-interview, you hinted a little bit that there's one factor that's sometimes missing a little bit, and that's that you would wish for more young people to really delve into this journey of entrepreneurship and to be brave and to give it their everything.
Exactly. So, Luis, if you look at the numbers, so Germany alone has about 3 million students. 3 million students. And per
University students, right?
University students, exactly. And per year, we have about 2,500 startups. And this means maybe 7,500 founders. So if every startup has on average 3 founders. So look, so 3 million compared to 7,000 people. So you see, there's so much more potential. And there's so many great, smart people out there. And our mission is to really bring them in contact with entrepreneurship, see what's possible, what you can build, and then help them on their growth path.
Okay, then let's try to inspire some people. So I think, or I took some notes and I tried to think about like what are the top reasons why young people in Germany don't even think about becoming an entrepreneur. And I think like Germans, of course, they're famous for being worried all the time. And there are many objections. And I would like to talk now a little bit about all the objections that I think, or you think also young people can have. And I would like to talk about like whether those objections are realistic or
only in the minds.
Or only in the minds, exactly. And maybe also from my side, as a background information, sort of you also like try talking me into entrepreneurship a little bit, and now I'm trying to do something. So
and that's really cool, Luis. You're doing a great job.
And so I think I know those objections from myself. So maybe you can also like help me be more confident with the choice. Objection number one is there's this thought that it's impossible to be successful and also a trustworthy founder if you're young. And actually, there's also a study from Pierre Azoulay. He's professor of management at the MIT Sloan School of Management. And he found out that the average age of successful startup founders, so successful unicorn founders, is 45. So German parents would tell you the same, I would say. Why would you say, is it still worth it? Or like, what's your experience? Is this always true?
So our most successful founders founded their companies in their 20s. Yeah, so if you look at Felix Haas from ID Now or Hanno Renner from Personio or Bosti Nominacher von Silonis, so these were all students founding companies out of university and being super successful. And even if you look back to the largest companies in the world, many were founded by really young guys. So if you look at Bill Gates, I think he was in the 18 Or
Yeah.
if you look at Hasso Plattner from SAP, I think he was 28 when he founded with his co-workers SAP. So I think it's a great age with the 20s or 30s to do this, and we have many successful companies coming out of this group of students.
And would you say like that it's also maybe a journey that's just worth doing it, even if your like chances, of course, like always when you're trying to found a company, it's not like 100% success rate, right?
Exactly, it's a great learning journey, and I think it's like the best management program you can pick as an education is to found your own company, because it's not theory, it's practice, and you have to solve all these topics like how do I do marketing, how do I recruit people, how do I do the financing plan, and so on and so on. Okay, and you have to really do it, not only do it in theory and write a test, but you really have to do it and prove it on the market. And so I think you run up the learning curve perfectly if you really start your own company with a strong team, with a strong network of mentors. But it's a great, as you said, it's a great learning journey. And what you also should consider is to share risk, okay? Because this journey is not like a journey of a maverick doing everything by her or himself, but it's teamwork. And so you should team up with clever other people and also get help. So get good advisors, good investors, good customers, good suppliers on board, and make it a joint journey.
Basically join UnternehmerTUM.
Yeah, and UnternehmerTUM is, for example, as an entrepreneurship center, is a super cool community of people who are on the same journey. And you know this, you can look left and right and ask people and say, okay, how would you solve this, or how did you solve this problem 2 months ago?
Yeah. I mean, if you like walk around Munich Urban Core Lab or in Garching, the building, I mean, that's basically like half of the conversations are about those topics.
Exactly.
Yeah. And another thing or another objection is that you lose time. Like if you found and you're not successful, that you lose time, and it's more hard to be hired later on by a good company. Would you say that is true?
So in our ecosystem, it's not true, because what our founders and students do is they use the time within the university really to test things out. Okay, really the early phases to design a business model, to build prototypes in a very early phase where the risk to fail is super high. But if you write your master thesis about building the prototype and the prototype fails, you still have a great master thesis, okay? So you don't fail, okay? And then you can either try it over again, or you can go to a big company, to a family business, whatsoever. Okay, so my recommendation would be use the university as a perfect playground to de-risk your ideas, and then you already have like a working prototype, you have first customers, and then to found, and then the risk is very low that you really fail.
And we talked about Germany a lot. There's also this idea, I don't know exactly where it comes from, but that Germany is a bad place to start a company. So people complain about regulations, not having enough capital available. We already talked a little bit about that. We have high costs. And for example, there's, I know that you're interested in fusion. So there's, for example, this German company, Marvel Fusion. They just founded a US subsidiary to get 150 million funding, which they couldn't get in Europe or in Germany. And also there's a study that shows that only 47% of German founders of unicorns would do it in Germany again. I can sort of understand some of those objections again, but still I feel that the mood is really good at the moment. and I can sort of see how whole Munich and also Germany is sort of on this upward slope at the moment. So what's your take on this? And this is also like your chance to convince the listeners that maybe the situation's not as bad as people on LinkedIn post about Germany and Europe.
Yes, so I think, Luis, you have to really differentiate where you are in Germany, and so it's always a game of clusters, so of regions where the right people come together, where money is, where a customer base is, where the talent ecosystem is. And there are stronger regions in Germany and weaker regions in Germany. So it really depends where you're sitting. And Munich is one of the most dynamic worldwide innovation regions. So this is clever. But then if you build a global company like our companies are with all these tech companies, so their customers are all over the world. So it's a global game. And this means that you will, as a successful founder out of Munich, you will open new offices in other regions. For example, in the US or in Europe, you will have an office in the Nordics, in France, and so on. But what's important is that like your headquarter or a central part will be in Munich, and what you will leverage is like the strengths of the Munich ecosystem, the talent base, and so on and so on. But there are also not so good things about Europe and especially Germany, and this is that there's also a lot of bureaucracy. And just to give you an example, if you incorporate a company in Germany, it takes you like 6 weeks to start a limited company, and it costs you also a few €1,000. If you do it in other countries, also in Europe, it takes you 1 day. Okay, and it costs Estonia, it can cost you maybe €250. Okay, and I think this is where we now, as Germans, really have to do our homework. And there may be like 20 such topics, and so we really have to improve them and get rid of all these burdens. And this is now, I think, our duty as citizens, as politicians, as government representatives, to really fix our ecosystems.
How are your hopes for that?
Pretty positive, but we have to do it, okay? And UnternehmerTUM is also contributing to it, and also the Startup Association and Startup Verband. So we invest a lot of time in really writing the concepts, working on the measures, also together with the national government, for example, the startup strategy, and then there are like 100 measures in there, and then you have to really make these 100 measures make happen, and then things improve. And that's how we really build a great ecosystem. It's very practical, it's very hands-on, but we have to do it.
You're part of the Startup Verband, right?
Yes, I'm one of the vice presidents.
One special case, as we have a lot of like internationals also hopefully listening, but also at the Munich ecosystem. And I heard multiple times now that it's really hard to found as international. For example, like Sabi, who's also part of the podcast, right? For him, it would be really hard at the moment to start a founding project since he's an international. Do you have any advice for those people? Or like, how would you approach it in their position?
So I think international means if you're not part of the European Union, then it's quite tough with all these regulations, getting a visa, getting a working permit, and so on. And what we do is we teamed up with the city of Munich, and so they are super helpful. So also at UnternehmerTUM, 40% of our students are international, 40% of our founders are international, and so we now know how this game works. It's bureaucracy, but it's working. So it sometimes takes a few weeks, but so far we can manage it. But also there, I think what my wish would be also to the city of Munich, to the Bavarian government, and to the German government, really fix all these bureaucratic regulations and make them more easy so people can spend their time more on the productive side.
So then I gotta tell Sabi that he just needs to use the possibilities at UnternehmerTUM. I hope Sabi is also listening to this episode, but I think he will. Hi, Sabi. Okay, next objection. That's actually one that I had a lot. I can do it later. I will be more experienced then. What's your take on that?
So I would say now is always the best time. And if you postpone it and postpone it and postpone it, it will never happen. And the other point is then again the learning curve. So you have to be in an environment which is really super supportive and also demanding, so where you can really grow personally. And if you are in a job which is nice and cozy and you do a little bit, maybe earn good money, but do not really learn and are not really challenged, then you will be not ready to found a company, okay? And then it's better to start out of the university, use the university as a test bed. And this is why we are so super successful, is that many of our students use the time during the university really to get into the topic, try it out, and a lot of them then say, okay, this is now really cool, this is now the perfect time, let's start.
There is also in Germany, we're talking a lot about Germany at the moment, but I'm sorry, it's just there are a lot of German thoughts in my mind. I always felt that there's, like, in society in general in Germany, there's a skepticism towards entrepreneurship. And as you know, I'm a film person, I'm a director from my background, so of course I watched a lot of German Tatort in my life. And I always had the feeling that there's so many entrepreneurs who are in the end the evil guys. And I looked it up actually, and entrepreneurs are actually the most common murderers in Tatort. Actually the Bundesverband der mittelständischen Wirtschaft, so the SME Association in Germany, they researched this and they found out that in the past 6 years, 39 of the murderers were entrepreneurs, managers, or self-employed people. And, like, by far the most representative murder, so to say. And then place 2 was with only 28, like, actual criminals, like who do this as a job, like being criminal. So what's your viewpoint on this? Where does this come from, this view, and how can we change this? Because it obviously is not true if you look at the statistics.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous and funny or sad. Because entrepreneurs are really these people who create the jobs, who create a lot of value, who really change the world in a positive way. They serve you with all their technologies, and it's so cool. So it's for me the greatest people out there, because they really make a difference. And yeah, I think we should talk to the guys from ARD and ZDF and get them a better tour through our ecosystem and building to explain them how the real world is functioning.
Maybe we should really actually do that. And how do you think, like, more from a societal perspective, how can we change this mindset that entrepreneurs are not benefiting society but sort of taking something from people?
I think universities play a huge role, because they are the young people, and they're the young people who decide about their future, what they want to do. And if they understand what are the possibilities, what are the chances, what are the upsides, I think then they can make really a sound choice. And look at what TUM is doing. Now we are like the driving force for entrepreneurship, and with UnternehmerTUM, and every fourth entrepreneur from Germany is coming out of this university, and it's only one university. Okay, it's 50,000 people, but it's only one university, and we have in Germany 400 of these universities. And so we did this calculation. So if about 16 other universities would join this mission in the same professional way, Germany would be the most innovative country of this world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, sort of, this connects to the Leuchtturm that
Exactly.
right? So trying to, okay, that's crazy.
Yeah. So if in every federal state of Germany, like in NRW, Baden-Württemberg, Sachsen, and so on, if every federal state would have a startup factory like UnternehmerTUM, then Germany would be the most innovative country of the world.
Okay. I mean, not to diminish like the the work that UnternehmerTUM did, but this sounds like it's doable, right?
Exactly, yeah. So at UnternehmerTUM, we have about 500 staff members, a great team of 500 people, serving about 10,000 students and founders per year. And this is doable in all these other universities too.
Do you also, like, one question that pops to my mind is, do you also do education at schools? So like before university, is that something that UnternehmerTUM does?
We do it, but only as like pilots and not really in scale. But that's maybe for another organization, maybe another entrepreneurs coming saying, okay, let's do this. Let's teach entrepreneurship in German high schools. That would be wonderful.
Helmut 2.0.
Exactly. There are people out there.
I hope so. Okay. One more objection that I had in mind. Maybe you also have some in mind. I don't know.
Maybe yes. I think it's very, like personally for me. So I'm coming out of a family of researchers. So my father is a professor, and so business was never discussed at home. So and how companies work, no clue. What startups are, no clue. So that was my personal journey out of home, that I got to know other startups and found out that this is of interest for me. And I think for me it was really an unknown ground. And first of all, I thought, okay, this is really full of risk and full of danger. And
which point in time are we talking about? Like your
when I started doing my being a student, I founded my first companies with fellow students, and I was really afraid that something happened. And today I'm really laughing about it, because now I know what good management is, and that it's like riding a bike. Okay, yeah, sure, you can fall off the bike, but you are not afraid of riding normally. Okay, and because if you know how to ride a bike. Okay, and this is, I think, like if you start companies, you learn how to do it. You get a feeling how it works. You get a feeling what is really risky, where you should get other people on board who can help you. And so for me, it was also a huge learning curve. And the first time I was really, really emotional. And
was this after the NASA experience or before?
That was afterwards. Yeah, that was afterwards. Yeah, yeah, because it was for me also unknown territory.
What kind of company did you found?
It was a consulting company with fellow students. Cool. Yeah.
And what kind of consulting?
Management consulting. Yeah, so we had like local companies as first customers, and there was a manager. So I was talking to as a student to a manager about what we've planned, and he said, "Okay, this sounds reasonable, and I give you like the first contract, and here are 25,000 euros, and let's try
cool.
it." So this is how it came into the play.
Did you have any people who supported you on your entrepreneurship journey back then?
Always. So there were always great, experienced entrepreneurs and managers around me as mentors who helped me, and so it was a lot of support. Yeah.
Was there anything at TUM, for example, like any organization like UnternehmerTUM?
So at that time it was called the Bayerische Elite Akademie. So it's like this extracurricular course for upcoming managers, and I was in the first batch of Bayerische Elite Akademie, and so I was sitting with all these Bavarian managers together, and they were really friendly and said, "Hey, you should try it. Let's do it." And this is how I found my way and got a lot of help.
And did it work out, if I'm allowed to ask?
Yeah, sure. And was the beginning, and now it's so huge.
So what made you switch to founding UnternehmerTUM then?
So that was actually my master thesis, and that was in the late 90s, and so there was this .com boom, and so you saw all these new companies coming up, and we were sitting in the university as students and thought, okay, we should be part of this boom. And so I suggested to my professor that I write a master thesis about the entrepreneurship ecosystem, comparing Stanford with the TUM ecosystem, and coming up with an idea how to foster it with an entrepreneurship center. And then I came back and presented it to my professor, then to the president of the university. And the president of the university said, "Oh, that could be a good idea, and let's go to Susanne Klatten, and so my chairwoman of UnternehmerTUM, and ask her if she wants to support it." And that was basically the start of UnternehmerTUM.
So a big thanks to NASA that they started this journey. Did you have any? Or could you talk a little bit more about your fears that you had back then? Like, what was your personal experience when you founded your consultancy, and what helped you overcome the fear?
Yeah, so it was because the fear was, okay, now I go to the notary, and then I found a limited company, and what are the responsibilities? What is the risk? What is if something happens? So there was so much uncertainty, and I was really, on one side, I was really like fascinated about the opportunities, but I was really also very scared about all the risks, the potential risks, what could happen. Yeah. It's maybe like marrying somebody, so you never know, okay, now I'm married, and what does this mean? And now you're with this person, and how's future, and so on. So you never know. So after you're done with this and see how it's working, then you laugh about it. But first, if you're standing in front of the mountain, you're really excited about climbing it.
Did you think like, or did you have the confidence that you're able to do it? Or were you like, because that's the thought that I sometimes have, is like, okay, entrepreneurship, that's, for the people you read in media about, like it's for the others, but it's not you yourself.
No, I was really totally convinced that this is the right way, but still you hear about all these theoretical risks and think, okay, what does this mean, and how can I do this? And there's so much uncertainty. So this was frightening. But once you are in the flow, if you get a good team on board, have great mentors, advisors on your side, then things are solvable.
Maybe at this point we could talk a little bit about what UnternehmerTUM offers also. I didn't plan for this, but maybe I think it fits. Let's say somebody would be in that stage. So they have an idea, or maybe they have some first customers in mind. Which way could UnternehmerTUM help them?
So UnternehmerTUM has about 20 programs, and one of the programs is a so-called pre-incubator, where people can sign up with an idea, and then we help them to find other co-founders, for example. So match people, we help them how they build their first business models. We have prototyping facilities where you can build physical products. We have a digital product school where we can build a digital product, and then you can, within this safe environment, then you can decide, okay, is this working out? Is the product really working on a technical side? Is it working from the customer side? Do I have good co-founders with me? And if all these check boxes are checked, then you can say, okay, let's really start. Let's go into the incubator. So we have Expreneurs as our incubator. And then we help you to raise money. About 100 companies per year in our ecosystem raise money. And maybe then you get 1 million or 2 million or 3 million for the first round. And then you can hire new people, set up your company, and then improve your product, ship the product to your first customers. And this is the game.
And you can also come to UnternehmerTUM before you have an idea, right? So for example, Manager More.
Exactly, yeah. So we do, you know this, Louis, with Manager More is an education program for super cool, active, entrepreneurial students. It's we always select about 20 great new students per year, and then they together run through a 3-4 semester program, learning how to manage, how to lead, do their own projects, and many start companies out of their projects. And then we also have tons of other entrepreneurship lectures you can sign up.
Maybe if you would be a young person today, what would be a company or like a space that you would be really interested in, or if you thought about like founding?
I would love to build up a technology company, and there's many great opportunities out there. For example, in the energy space, to really contribute to solving the climate crisis. For example, build like new energy storage companies, energy generation companies. This is one part. There are also great new technologies like artificial intelligence around, where you can build products with this new technology. So there are tons of opportunities, and what I would do is find a great market, a cool market, solve a great problem for society and customers, and then apply cutting-edge technology to solve the problems and build great products.
What would you say? What are the strengths of the German or even of the Munich ecosystem?
I think that's this combination of technology, great people, but also a huge industry base. So here our southern German regions know how to build great products. So we have great product companies like BMW, Knorr-Bremse, Siemens, and so on. A lot of Mittelstands companies, which are fantastic. And this is our base, this is our home turf, and we can leverage this.
What I was wondering as well is, I mean, I think applied AI probably is also like or could be an interesting space. But recently I read that actually like a lot of the foundational AI research was also done in Munich. So for example, stability, like stable diffusion, the image generation AI, a lot of the research actually came from LMU in Munich. But they sort of didn't, or the company didn't start in Germany. So what would you say? Why are we a little bit behind on AI, and what can we do about that?
So the good thing is we are one of the greatest talents pools and also research pools for artificial intelligence, and it's a global race. And I think we have to find the opportunities and then build the companies, and it's a competition, okay, and we have to play this game, but it's up to us, okay, and let's found the companies and then be successful. So what do we have to do? Start the companies and play the game.
Yeah. Okay. So you think it's basically just going this step?
Yeah. So that's what we do twice a week.
What would you say? I think this is a good point in time already for some final words. So what would actually be the number one action that you would recommend our mostly young listeners to do after listening to the episode? What would you recommend?
So I am a really fan of getting started. And getting started means, okay, if you are a university student, sign up for an entrepreneurship course at your university, or look at the website of UnternehmerTUM, sign up at the course there, or an online course, and really get involved and start your journey now.
Thank you for those great words. And it was a pleasure having you. And maybe let's talk in 2 years or 3 years again, and let's check how the ecosystem evolved. But I'm pretty hopeful. And thank you for the great work that you put into the even European ecosystem, and to really push us to catch up to the US and to Asia.
It's a great pleasure, Luis. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. Spark is proudly presented by Ripple Film, storytelling for tech, B2B, and beyond.